The words echoed in my mind, so absurd and sudden that they left me speechless. My mother-in-law sat on the couch, wearing a smug expression, while my sister-in-law stood beside her, nodding in agreement. They hadn't even waited a full week after my mother's funeral before making their move. I never expected things to escalate this fast. After all, we'd been living together, my husband Matt, my mother, and I, for years without any major conflicts. But now, with my mother gone, it felt like they'd been waiting for this moment to strike. My husband Matt had always been my biggest supporter, but even he looked lost as he tried to understand what was happening. "Wait, what are you saying?" Matt asked, his voice trembling slightly. "I'm saying we'll be moving in here," my mother-in-law said coldly. "Kimberly's unemployed, isn't she? Just sitting around doing nothing. Now that her mother's gone, she'll become a burden on you. So we'll take over, and you can finally be free of this dead weight." I clenched my fists under the table. The insult stung, but it wasn't the first time they had made snide remarks about me. What hurt the most was their attack on my mother. My mother had been my rock, always supporting me, and now they dared to tarnish her memory like this. Matt tried to defend me. "Kimberly isn't a burden. She's an investor. She earns more than I do, for God's sake." But his words fell on deaf ears. My mother-in-law leaned forward, staring at me with a look of pity. "Oh, Matt," she sighed. "You're so naive. You've been fooled by her. She's just pretending to work while she plays around with stocks. Trust me, once her mother stopped supporting her, she turned into a freeloader." The anger that simmered inside me began to boil over. "How dare you speak about my mother like that?" I snapped. "She worked hard all her life, and I've always earned my own living." My sister-in-law chimed in, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Sure, you've earned a living, but why should Matt have to support you when you clearly can't even handle your own affairs? You don't even have children. What kind of wife are you?" That hit hard. I had always wanted children, but life had its own timing, and it wasn't something I could control. The pressure from my in-laws had only made it worse, their constant reminders that I was a failure for not giving them a grandchild. Matt, sensing the rising tension, tried to calm the situation down. "Mom, this isn't the time or place for this conversation. We've just lost Kimberly's mother, and we need to focus on supporting each other, not tearing each other apart." But his mother ignored him. "You need to face the facts, Matt," she said, her voice cold and determined. "You deserve better. You need a wife who can support you and give you a real family, not some woman who's playing house while living off your hard work." Her words cut deep, but they also gave me clarity. I had always tried to be patient with my in-laws, hoping that if I stayed kind, they would come around. But now it was clear that they had never respected me, and they never would. Before I could respond, Matt spoke again, his voice louder this time. "That's enough, Mom. You're not moving in here, and you're not going to tear apart my marriage. Kimberly is my wife, and I won't let you insult her any longer." For a brief moment, silence filled the room. My mother-in-law's face twisted in surprise. She had never expected Matt to stand up to her like this. But then her expression hardened, and she turned to my sister-in-law. "We've sold the house," she said, her tone sharp. "We're moving in here whether you like it or not." Matt's eyes widened in shock. "You sold the house? Why didn't you tell me?" "We thought we didn't need to," my sister-in-law said smugly. "We assumed you'd be happy to have us close. After all, you're family." I felt my blood run cold. This wasn't just a power play. They had planned this. They had sold their home, fully expecting to move in and take over ours, leaving us no room to object. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just about insulting me. This was about control. Matt stood frozen, struggling to process what they had just revealed. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the shock of betrayal mixed with the desire to keep peace within the family. But this was our home. My mother had lived here with us. This was the place where I felt safe, where I built my career as an investor, and where I found solace after her passing. Taking a deep breath, I decided it was time to take control of the situation. "You can't stay here," I said firmly, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. "This is my home, and you're not welcome to live here." My mother-in-law's eyes narrowed. Oh, really? And what makes you think you can stop us? This apartment belongs to me, I said, staring her down. It was left to me by my father. I own it. Not Matt, not you. So unless I say otherwise, Izrania, no one is moving in here. The room fell deathly quiet as the weight of my words sank in. My sister-in-law looked at me, her mouth hanging open in disbelief. My mother-in-law, however, refused to back down. That can't be true, she said, her voice shaking with anger. Matt bought this place for you. You're just lying to protect your cushy lifestyle. I'm not lying, I replied, my voice cold and resolute. And if you try to force your way in here, I'll have no choice but to get legal involved. Matt finally snapped out of his daze. Mom, she's right. Kimberly owns this apartment. You can't just barge in and demand to live here. I don't know what you were thinking, but this isn't happening. His mother's face contorted with rage, and she turned on him, her voice rising in desperation. We have nowhere else to go, Matt. We sold our house because we thought we could count on you. You can't just throw us out like this. We're family. But Matt shook his head. This isn't about family. You've crossed the line. You've insulted my wife, you've disrespected our home, and now you expect us to just give in to your demands? Number, you need to leave. My sister-in-law, who had been silent until now, suddenly burst into tears. Matt, please, we're begging you. We don't have anywhere else to go. We'll be homeless. I watched as Matt hesitated, torn between his love for his family and the need to protect our marriage. But I wasn't about to let their manipulation work. You should have thought about that before selling your house, I said firmly. You can't just expect to move in here and disrupt our lives. Tears streamed down my sister-in-law's face as she turned to me, her voice cracking with desperation. Kimberly, please. I'm sorry for everything we've said. We didn't mean it. We thought we'd be able to live here, and now we have nowhere to go. Please, help us. Her sudden change of heart didn't move me. I had seen too many fake apologies over the years to be fooled by this act. I glanced at Matt, who looked back at me, silently asking for my input. Matt, I said softly, they made their decision when they sold their house. This is our home, and I won't let them take that away from us. He nodded, and for the first time, I saw him fully realize the extent of his family's manipulation. Turning back to his mother and sister, he spoke with finality. You both need to leave. I'm sorry, but this is Kimberly's home, and you've crossed too many lines. We'll help you figure something out, but you're not staying here. His words hung in the air like a final blow. My mother-in-law, realizing that her plan had failed, stood up, her face red with fury. Fine, she spat, but don't think this is over, Matt. You'll regret choosing her over your own family. With that, she stormed out of the apartment, her daughter following close behind, still sobbing. The door slammed shut behind them, leaving Matt and me standing in the quiet aftermath. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The weight of what had just happened settled around us, and I could see the exhaustion on Matt's face. Finally, he turned to me, his shoulders slumping in defeat. I'm sorry, he whispered. I never thought it would come to this. I reached out and took his hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. It's not your fault, I said softly. We'll get through this together. He nodded, but I could tell the strain of the confrontation had taken its toll on him. We stood there in silence, holding on to each other as the reality of the situation began to sink in. A few days later, we heard through relatives that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law had moved into a small, run-down apartment. The house they sold hadn't fetched the price they expected, and now they were struggling to make ends meet. My sister-in-law couldn't find a stable job and had been relying on part-time work to get by. Despite their efforts to reach out to Matt for help, he remained firm in his decision to keep them at a distance. Meanwhile, life for Matt and me slowly returned to normal. I continued my work as an investor, and as time passed, we began to talk about starting a family of our own. My mother's words echoed in my mind. God will bless you at the right time. And she was right. A year later, I found out I was pregnant. Matt and I were overjoyed, and as I gently placed my hand on my growing belly, I felt a sense of peace that had been missing for so long. Our lives had been through so much upheaval, but we had come out stronger on the other side. I often thought about my mother during those quiet moments, grateful for the lessons she had taught me. She had always told me to stand up for myself, to never let anyone make me feel small. And in the end, that's exactly what I did. This was my home, and no one could take that away from me.